Hey everyone, Harry here to talk about Jimmy Kimmel's being pulled from the air indefinitely. So let's start with broad strokes because there are legal nuances of did this action come from Disney, from the immediate parent that runs ABC, from the government in some sense? Is it the operation? As some of the administration would have it, of kind of capitalism and the right of the people and community to protest speech they don't like, etc. And before getting into fine points, I just want to say this is like, I think, a terrible day for democracy. I just don't think there's two ways around it. Think about, right, you're, reading about this in another country. You're in Hungary. This guy was the funniest guy and everybody loved him, but he displeased Viktor Orban and now he's out. You wouldn't have any doubt how to sort of conceptualize that. You wouldn't have any hesitation of saying, well, in that not free country, unlike the United States of America, if even a very famous rich entertainer somehow displeases the maximum leader, they're out. And the people can't hear from that person anymore. And the whole sort of public discourse is impoverished, not to mention that kind of brittleness and thin-skinned is a quality, is a characteristic of sort of nasty, autocratic, can't take a joke leaders and have the power to order it not to. So I'll touch on them. I'll move to the law and what could happen. But man, this is not one I think that should just wash over us. Not to mention, it is far from isolated, right? It's so much of what's happening is of such pace. But he joins Colbert just yesterday, Ben of Ben and Jerry's said, I'm out of here after 27 years as ice cream impresario and do-gooder in the country because the people who own the company are telling me what I can do and what I can't say. And there's just no doubt that company is telling us what I can do and what I can say is inconceivable in the absence of a Trump presidency. Now, he'll point to some of his previous successes, you want to call it, his total meritless lawsuits that he was able to shake loose settlements from Disney, from Paramount. But that itself represented abuses of power where narrow-minded corporate interests said, we don't want to lose our big merger. We don't want to lose or be on cross sides with the administration. So we'll say what they'll say. It's a form of self-censorship, but let's not hesitate for a second to call it what it is. It's a form of self-censorship based entirely on the capricious and actually very sort of weak oversensitivity of the maximum leader. Here's the actual statement. If you haven't read it by now, this is exactly what Jimmy Kimmel said and why he has been fired. Okay, so let's just first with the statement. I mean, it's not even like a punchline statement. It's this prefatory statement where he comes out. He says, we hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it. That, by the way, is a fact. That says nothing about who the kid is. It says nothing about who Kirk is. It says nothing about the controversy. It certainly says nothing about the justifiedness or not of the murder, which he wouldn't even hint at. And yes, that would be saying, hooray, they killed Kirk. Okay. But this is as a neuter kind of statement. People in the MAGA gang want to be sure that Kirk isn't characterized as one of them. And it's really true, including, by the way, this is the source of some of the most important evidence in the case. The actual group of video game players that are at the middle of this world that Robinson occupied. Right, that is the statement. Okay. So, I mean, it would be, it's another level of outrage that it's so bland and just factual and not making fun of the president or anyone. But now, so that's for starters. So, and we know for a fact, but for this hypersensitivity, Kimmel said, what? I doubt any, they even took a breath and read it. It's just sort of somewhere in the ether of liberals out there trying, or so they think in their minds, to say that the shooter is one of the MAGA guys, not one of the liberal transgender people or whatever. A point that matters, like, not at all. If you're foreseeing this thing right, he is a very serious accused criminal. He should be treated that way. And as it gets caught up in this meat grinder of a sort of political back and forth, it tarnishes and brings down the country's solemnity, sense of purpose, and general polarization that Trump has so completely fostered. Okay, but now let's think about this in governmental terms, not precisely yet First Amendment, but sort of. And you zero right in on the head of the FCC, who has been doing Trump's bidding in a really heavy-handed way, and has been, very strong behind this move in particular. So Brendan Carr, again, taking this statement, now just let me say, the FCC in renewal of licenses is not supposed to promote or foster any kind of political statement, or that's not their job. Their job is other things about regulatory oversight, except the way Carr did it before, is where there was this merger involved. He attempted to suggest that when you think about a merger, you'll think about, have these guys been fair, meaning balanced, meaning enough pro-conservative Trump stuff there, and that would guide the decision. And that was more than enough for the big moneyed interests who said, where do we write this $60 million check for you, Trump? All right, so the neutral FCC chair who has no business in the content of what Kimmel says, right? We have some government people who said, well, if he says outrageous things, you should take him off the air. That's almost like a capitalist thing. That's not what Carr is about. Carr says that Mr. Kimmel's remarks were, quote, part of a concerted effort to lie to the American people, and we were going to have remedies that we can look at. So what a pile of garbage, right? It is not their business about lying to the American people, and think about it if it were. That's not what the FCC does. And then this threatening on a conservative cable show, by the way, or podcast. We've got remedies. Frankly, when you see stuff like this, listen to this. I mean, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. Mr. Carr told the host he was at, these companies can find ways to change conduct and take action, frankly, on Kimmel, or there's going to be additional work for the FCC ahead. Okay, if there is a First Amendment case, Kimmel has a very sort of high-level decision, a celebrity of his stature. Does he want to get sort of drawn into the whole kind of muck and mess of this? And maybe he does. But that would be sort of exhibit one in any claim that the government is improperly influencing speech and telling broadcasters what they can say. We're going to come after you. These are lies to the American people. Bullshit, and more bullshit. This is not they're not lies, but more than that, this is not the FCC's job. And by the way, who loves it that it is the FCC's job? You won't be surprised. But when he hears about this, and Carr, of course, knows how to please him, Trump does a social media post describing it as great news for America. Great news for America. America's interests are hugely served by the removal of a guy who, by the way, some people think he's funny. Some people think he isn't. I think he's pretty funny. But beyond that, he's a late night comedian. So it's, not some kind of serious public policy. He's a late night comedian who makes jokes and says stuff like that. So it also speaks to not just simply the control over, but the impoverishment of our whole kind of entertainment and media choices, and that's just a total really deprivation of freedom. I don't see any other way to think about it. You may not start your night with a Jimmy Kimmel monologue, but some people might. And just in general, American people, because of the strong arming, I think you draw a causal link from Brendan Carr, from this hard-assness to the people, the two people, and this is like has happened before, that actually make the decision to pull him, not permitting him, by the way. He wanted to go on the air last night, give his side of things, just a basic fairness thing. We're canceling the show. And this is Robert Iger, Disney's chief executive, Dana Walden, the company's television chief. So they just say, he is out, and in a way that has really nothing to do with their honest views about, did he say something controversial? He mentioned something about Kirk in a situation where things are totally roiled. And it is the case, in fact, that, MAGA is up in arms, and boom, Jimmy Kimmel's not on late night TV anymore. Just like Stephen Colbert's just not on late night TV. Just as Ben and Jerry's doesn't offer his ice cream magic anymore. These are all because moneyed interests worried about the improper and sometimes illegal coercion by administrative interests that are nakedly partisan think, okay, to make money and get ahead, we better deprive people of clearly regular First Amendment speech. We are the poor for it. Our democracy is the poor for it. And it looks like it's just passing by, and people are sort of thinking of it. And Carr is representing it as some kind of personal homegrown decision where the people rise up and revolt against the outrageous statements of Jimmy Kimmel. That ain't it at all. It's absolute censorship by moneyed interests, bigger than Jimmy Kimmel, who say, I'm sure in private, who say, I know it's ridiculous, but who say out there, this is just not fit fodder. For a late night TV show, think of the things that happen there every night. Think of the things that happen there with every sexual scandal, with every kind of scandal, political or otherwise. It's part of a healthy democracy. You tune in and you listen. Maybe, just maybe, if you're lying a lot or really trashing the president and really lying a lot, lying is bad, by the way. And if they hold that principle to heart, we wouldn't have the president we do. But if you maybe, just maybe, the government has some role to play, even that is sort of bone chilling. It's for the marketplace to ferret out. But the general suggestion the marketplace has, bullshit, more bullshit, I call. So this, to me, even though it's not down the middle with FCC and Humphrey's executor and First Amendment doctrine, et cetera, is, I think, a really ominous and bad development for the country. And that really, however you would draw the legal lines that result in Kimmel's being out the door, is just a plain instance of the impoverishment of our First Amendment, our speech and our right to others' speeches, because in some very oblique way that would never, ever, ever be replicated if it were some kind of suggestion about someone on the left. Kimmel made comments that moneyed interests who control ABC think, maybe the maximum leader will be displeased by this and could wind up costing us money. Bad, not the United States of America. Absolutely the stuff of autocratic regimes. But now, there you go. Find something else to do at 11:30 at night. Talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.